Now, back to Sunrise on News Radio 880 KCMX.
Swaying to the city of destruction.
Good morning, everyone. 18 minutes after the hour. Welcome to the Sunrise Show on News Radio 80 KCMX. Craig Froelich in as your host, and want to welcome onto the program newly elected Jackson County Sheriff Corey Falls. And Corey, congratulations on your win, and great to have you in the studio.
Thank you, and thanks for having me this morning.
You bet. I mean, we all know getting back to work, law enforcement, they just want to do their job, you know, and the political process is something that part of the American way, but
not fun.
Well, it's so, you know, how to influence people, right? Make friends, influence people, and it's so difficult, especially with the passion out there and taking things out of context. I mean, I have it happen all the time. So anyway, onward business, right?
Yes.
So I know that the paper, of course, came out this last weekend, and you know, steady she goes type thing. And you mentioned, I said, well, what's some of the things that aren't being talked about? And you mentioned it's tough for law enforcement right now. Explain that.
Sure. Public trust is something that we value and we really need in law enforcement. And I think we've seen over the last year where that's been challenged.
Oh, huge. Yeah.
And you see that across the country, and unfortunately, law enforcement is one bad incident represents law enforcement a lot of times.
It's a shame.
And that goes across the board. And it's imperative for leaders and law enforcement agencies to keep that connect to the community and keep those relationships strong, because there's going to be incidents that challenge our relationship in our communities.
Well, there are. I mean, it was we discussed it. I mean, you know, the Trayvon Martin piece, that wasn't so much law enforcement than Michael Brown in Missouri, and it was so interesting that the passion of people, even when the facts came out.
Sure.
The passion still came out more, and they didn't feel represented. And I understand to a point that different groups of folks, whether it's poverty or low income or, you know, African Americans, you know, black, you know, I don't like that hyphenated term, quite frankly. Americans to me, and maybe that's not inclusive, but it is a shame that that's the case. And so the next thing is, how do you educate them so that they understand that they're not being, that they can be a trusted source?
Mm-hmm. One thing we have to continue to do in law enforcement is get information out there and get it out accurately. And if we withhold information or sit on information that we otherwise could put out, a lot of times people will fill in the gaps with what they think happened.
Or they think you're hiding something.
Or they think you're hiding something, and a lot of times those gaps will be filled in, and it's certainly a balance between getting information out, getting it out accurately in a timely manner, and keeping the integrity of investigations, keeping the integrity of things that happen within a law enforcement agency. And we see that a lot of times with the breakdown of that information, and we see law enforcement sometimes not divulging as much as they should or being accurate, and then sometimes we see citizens jump to conclusions they think really happened, and once they think that's what happened.
Yeah, it's very difficult. So Jackson County, I mean, the sheriff's office here, I mean, there's 36 counties in the state. Your job going to be building relationships with all the sheriffs, right, in the western region, for that matter, and seeing where your weak points are. I mean, budget, now they just came out, timber receipts are not going to be happening even more. Is your budget going to be affected? Are the commissioners going to hold on to that?
Our budget should be fine for this next budget year, yes.
Okay. So is it enough to work with? I guess that's the next thing.
Yes, it's enough to work with. We can work within our budget and still provide a professional service to Jackson County citizens.
So is there any, I mean, I guess you've got so much happening coming at you so fast. What first, right? And you're still in that process. I would think you'd need a month or two of just back off. Let me just see what works,
Absolutely.
right? and then let's come out of the gate kind of slow.
Yeah.
Am I?
That's spot on, and it's actually the busyness and what's going on right now. That's the fun part, let's figuring things out. But what's important to me is understanding processes. I guess I'm a process guy.
Yeah.
It's like, what have we been doing? Well, and if we've been doing well, then let's keep doing it. What needs to improve? What needs to change? And those have been some of my questions to understand the process of things. And I'm finding a lot of things that may have, the perception things weren't going that well. It was just because of either a lack of understanding or a breakdown in communication.
Yeah, and I know that it takes a long time to change the perception because the information, unless it's, Beyonce or red carpet Hollywood or a hot new video, right? It goes real fast. But if it's not that, it just takes so much longer to move the needle so that folks, they hear it, they understand it, they listen, and maybe they pass it on to somebody else about good or bad in a department or business. Yeah.
Sure. And there are some natural barriers that I saw just logistically at the organization, sections of the agency that were closed off that I felt it would be help lines of communication, help relationships, just to open up those areas. If otherwise they didn't need to be closed down. And it's made the flow of our organization a little better, so people are running into each other and talking more, but it'll take time.
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing coming out of your seat as sheriff of Jackson County is flow chart. Where is that going to change ever so slightly or ever so drastically? I don't know. We've got a break coming up.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've got newly elected Jackson County Sheriff Corey Falls in the studio. We'll continue after this. We'll take your calls, 541-772-8255, 772-TALK, and we'll continue with that after this break on the Sunrise Show. News Radio 80 KCMX. You can find us online at kcmxam.com, streaming worldwide. We'll be right back.
So get up. Top of the morning to ya.
Now, back to Sunrise on News Radio 88 KCMX.
Good morning, everybody. 35 minutes after the hour, Craig Froelich in on the Sunrise Show, and continuing with Jackson County Sheriff Corey Falls. And Corey, it's great to have you in, and great dialogue, and talking about perception. This last segment, building back the trust, law enforcement's difficult time, a lot of passion going on. This Michael Brown incident in Missouri, this Mike Garner, I'm trying to think what it was, in New York. All based off of an arrest, and I told our listeners, I said, listen, when a law enforcement officer approaches or asks you, there's a conversation and then it changes into demands, and you need to do exactly, correct?
Sure.
What
yes.
the officer's asking.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the next thing is we see that a traffic stop is the number one most and highest, biggest hazard that a law enforcement officer faces every day. And when I was on the Citizen Academy at the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, and I went on a ride-along, it was eye-opening. And I was so impressed by the deputy I was with, Deputy Cam, and to watch him go, but it was very quick, very, decisive. But people don't understand it's not a debate when the officer is starting to give you demands, correct?
That's correct. And those are probably the majority of our contacts that we make in law enforcement is a traffic stop. And a lot of things that people don't understand is we don't always know who's behind the wheel or can tell who's driving. A lot of times you can't tell the race, the gender, the ethnicity, anything like that. So you're just making a contact on somebody that you see has usually done some type of violation. And then once that contact is made, we want cooperation to to figure out a solution, and a lot of times that's where the confrontation begins.
I mean, in both incidences that took the nation by storm, it was upsetting to me because they weren't addressing and giving respect where respect was due. Correct?
Well, I don't know if that's the case because I don't know.
No, I know it. All the evidence. But I mean, truly.
Cases. But certainly, there's a relationship between law enforcement and citizens to where there has to be an understanding of the contact, and sometimes that's where the breakdown is because there's not always that understanding of why that contact is made with the citizens, and that's where problems come from.
Yeah, it is. You know, here's one question that just kind of popped into my head: body cams for deputies. Where are we on that with the sheriff's office?
I think that's a good thing. I would like to move in that direction. Certainly, I'd like to see if we can't get into the budget for 2015-16 and move in that direction starting July 1 to have some body cameras for all our deputies. From what I've seen, it reduces complaints.
Oh yeah,
and it helps with accountability. Whether it's holding the police accountable or holding the citizens accountable, it doesn't matter. It's good.
Where's the cost? Is the data storage the cost?
Yeah, it's the storage. That's the biggest cost, and how long you're going to keep that storage. And the actual hardware equipment is not that expensive.
Right.
So we're looking. There's other agencies in the valley that are interested in moving to body cameras, and we've already been talking amongst different agencies. Hey, can we do this collectively and maybe save some money?
Buying power, absolutely, yeah. And then you wonder. We talked about this before. It was technology and equipment, updating it, and how long does that equipment last? Are they durable? And then do you just change out maybe quality of camera gear and you continue the storage, software, the whole bit, right?
Well, yeah, and that's one reason why I know when I was working at the city of Ashland, we had waited a little bit to get body cameras because it's like you want to make the right choice because technology is moving so quick. You don't want to buy something that's outdated a couple months later. Well, with these incidents over the last year, some of these companies have gotten huge contracts now, and the technology is better, and the storage is better, and so we're ready to find something that we'll put in place.
Yeah, very good, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, Jackson County Sheriff Corey Falls in the studio with me this morning, and great to have you in.
Thanks.
Congratulations again on your newly elected position, and we look forward to great things. And however we can help here on the show, absolutely thrilled to do so.
Thank you. Thanks for having me this morning.
You bet. You bet. All right, got to get to a break. We'll be back. Oh, all kinds of fun things happening. It's the Sunrise Show on News Radio 880 KCMX. We're streaming online. You can take us with you wherever you go, on the phone, on the computer, tablet, wherever, at kcmxam.com. Our links are right there. Hit us up on Facebook or Twitter, or email me, Craig@radiomedford.com. We're here. We're listening all the time. All right, got to get to a break. Well, minus the break part. We're listening on the air. We'll be right back.